Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving deep into one of the most feared and talked about weapons in modern warfare, Israel's Harpy drone, a system that has silently changed how air defenses are hunted and destroyed, and why military experts around the world openly admit that this single platform has forced armies to rethink how they protect their skies. The Harpy drone is not just another unmanned aerial vehicle. It represents a completely different philosophy of warfare, where machines are designed to wait patiently, listen silently, and strike without warning, making it one of the earliest and most successful examples of a loitering munition, sometimes called a suicide drone, but in reality far more sophisticated than that simple label suggests. Developed by Israel Aerospace Industries, the Harpy was created with a very specific mission in mind: the suppression and destruction of enemy air defense systems, particularly radar installations that are the backbone of modern surface-to-air missile networks, and this focus is exactly what makes it so terrifying for military planners. Unlike traditional drones that require constant operator control, the Harpy is largely autonomous, meaning once it is launched into an area, it can patrol for hours, scanning the electromagnetic spectrum for radar emissions, and the moment it detects a hostile radar signal, it can independently decide to attack, turning the radar itself into a beacon of destruction. This autonomy is a key reason experts are unsettled, because it dramatically reduces reaction time for defenders, as there is no remote pilot delay, no need for command authorization at the moment of attack, and no easy way to predict when or from where the Harpy will strike. The Harpy is typically launched from a ground-based truck-mounted canister, which can carry multiple drones, allowing forces to saturate a wide area with loitering munitions, and once airborne, each drone can remain on station for several hours, essentially acting as an invisible minefield in the sky. What makes this even more dangerous is the fact that air defense radars are forced into an impossible dilemma. If they turn on their radars to detect incoming aircraft or missiles, they reveal their position to the Harpy, but if they turn them off to avoid detection, they are effectively blind, leaving the protected area vulnerable to follow-up attacks. Military experts often describe this as a catch-22 situation where any choice made by the defender leads to serious risk, and this psychological pressure alone can degrade the effectiveness of an entire air defense network even before a single Harpy strikes. Technically, the Harpy may not look impressive compared to large combat drones, but its simplicity is deceptive, featuring a delta-wing design optimized for endurance, a relatively small radar cross-section, and an onboard passive radar seeker that listens rather than emits, making it extremely difficult to detect using conventional radar systems. Because the Harpy does not rely on GPS for its terminal guidance and instead homes in on radar emissions, it is less vulnerable to jamming and spoofing techniques that are increasingly used against other precision-guided weapons, adding another layer of resilience that worries electronic warfare specialists. When the Harpy locks onto a target, it dives directly into the radar source, detonating its warhead on impact, and even a single successful hit can neutralize a multi-million-dollar radar system that may have taken years to develop and deploy. This cost-exchange ratio is another reason experts are alarmed, as a relatively inexpensive loitering munition can destroy assets that are not only costly but also critical for the coordination of air defense and battlefield awareness. Historically, the Harpy has proven its effectiveness in real-world conflicts, which adds credibility to the fear surrounding it, as it is not just a theoretical weapon, but one that has demonstrated tangible battlefield impact. One of the most cited examples is its alleged use in conflicts where advanced air defense systems suddenly went silent, not because they were overwhelmed by aircraft or missiles, but because operators were forced to shut them down to avoid being targeted by loitering munitions like the Harpy. This creates a cascading effect, because once radars are neutralized or suppressed, follow-on strikes by aircraft, cruise missiles, or ballistic missiles become far more effective, allowing an attacking force to achieve air superiority much faster than traditional methods. Military analysts often compare the Harpy to earlier anti-radiation missiles, but the key difference lies in persistence, as missiles are fired once and either hit or miss, while the Harpy can wait, adapt, and attack at the most vulnerable moment. This persistence fundamentally changes how air defense operators behave, forcing them to constantly relocate, limit radar usage, and operate under extreme stress, which increases the likelihood of mistakes and system failures. Another factor that terrifies experts is the scalability of the Harpy concept, because once the basic technology exists, it can be adapted, upgraded, and mass-produced, leading to scenarios where dozens or even hundreds of loitering munitions could be deployed simultaneously. In such a swarm scenario, defending against Harpy, like drones, becomes exponentially harder, as traditional air defense systems are not optimized to track and intercept small, slow, low-lying targets in large numbers, especially when those targets are actively seeking out the very sensors meant to detect them. The Harpy also blurs the line between offensive and defensive operations, as it can be used not only in the opening phase of a conflict to cripple enemy air defenses, but also as a persistent area denial weapon, preventing the reactivation or repair of radar sites for extended periods. From a strategic perspective, this capability can deter adversaries from deploying certain systems at all, knowing that any attempt to operate them could result in immediate destruction, thereby shaping enemy behavior without direct confrontation. Ethical and legal discussions also surround the Harpy, particularly because of its autonomous targeting capability, which raises questions about human control, accountability, and the future role of artificial intelligence in lethal decision-making. While the Harpy's targeting is limited to radar emissions rather than visual identification of human targets, the fact that it can independently decide to attack without real-time human input still makes many experts uneasy about where this technology could lead. This concern is amplified by the global spread of loitering munition technology, as similar systems have been developed or acquired by multiple countries, increasing the likelihood that future conflicts will see widespread use of autonomous or semi-autonomous strike drones. In response to the Harpy threat, militaries are exploring countermeasures such as decoy radars, mobile and rapidly deployable systems, advanced electronic warfare techniques, and specialized short-range air defense weapons designed to engage small drones. However, each countermeasure comes with limitations, costs, and trade-offs, and none provide a guaranteed solution, especially when facing a determined and technologically advanced adversary. Some experts argue that the Harpy has effectively shifted the balance in the ongoing offense-defense competition, giving attackers a significant advantage against even well-defended airspace, at least until new defensive concepts are fully developed and deployed. This shift has major implications for countries that rely heavily on fixed or semi-fixed air defense installations, as these systems become increasingly vulnerable in a world where loitering munitions can patiently wait for the perfect moment to strike. The psychological impact on operators cannot be overstated, as knowing that simply turning on a radar could invite destruction creates constant tension, fatigue, and hesitation, which in itself can reduce operational effectiveness. From a technological standpoint, the Harpy represents a milestone in the evolution of unmanned systems, demonstrating how autonomy, endurance, and specialized targeting can be combined into a weapon that punches far above its weight. It also highlights Israel's broader approach to defense innovation, focusing on practical, battlefield-tested solutions designed to address specific threats, rather than purely theoretical or experimental concepts. As military experts look to the future, many see the Harpy not as the end point, but as an early example of what is to come, with next-generation systems likely to feature improved sensors, greater autonomy, networked cooperation between drones, and enhanced resistance to countermeasures. This prospect raises serious questions about how future wars will be fought, how airspace will be defended, and whether traditional concepts of air superiority will remain relevant in an era dominated by persistent, intelligent, and expendable unmanned weapons. In conclusion, Israel's Harpy drone terrifies military experts not because it is the largest, fastest, or most heavily armed system, but because it exploits fundamental vulnerabilities in modern warfare, turning the very tools of defense into targets and forcing adversaries into impossible choices. Its proven effectiveness, psychological impact, and potential for future evolution make it a symbol of a broader shift toward autonomous, persistent, and highly specialized weapons that challenge existing doctrines and demand entirely new ways of thinking about defense and security.